Hello, everyone. Hi, friends. Welcome to Low SD Quality Theater, otherwise known as our Batman Forever read-a-thon, um, in honor and in support of Peter David's family. Um, Go to Non-Productive.com /Batman Forever for information on how you could donate to um, keep supporting our favorite comic artists. We're still in the then section of the novelization of the 1995 Batman Forever film. The novelization, of course, being written by none other than Peter David, comics legend. And yeah, the first section is then. These are throwbacks. And the next section, I assume, will be something else. So let's begin, shall we? Yeah, I mean, that's why you're here. Again, poor quality video today because I could barely get this thing together. But luckily I'm wearing my Marvel shirt. So that makes sense. Hey, Eddie. Edward Nigma looked up at the hulking lummox and his snickering cronies who stood nearby. The 8th grade lad blew air impatiently from between his lips. It was library study hall, and he was working on his 5th crossword puzzle in the last 15 minutes. Edward had thick brown hair, and he was constantly pushing out of his eyes, an expressive face that didn't seem to be made of flesh so much as rubber. Behind his eyes there were a fiery intelligence that did not suffer fools gladly. Got something on your mind, Raymond? A thought, maybe? And you're afraid he'll die of boredom? Oh, yeah. Got a riddle for you. A riddle, Raymond? Yeah, that's right. You're always doing puzzles and stuff. A riddle. Edward glanced around, but there was no teacher anywhere in sight. Typical for this stump. He put the puzzle down inside. Okay, what's the riddle? What has 4 wheels and flies? Edward looked at him pityingly. A garbage truck, he said. Raymond's face clouded. You heard it. Just a wild guess. A shot in the dark, which, by the way, I wouldn't mind taking at you. Is that supposed to be funny? No, this is. Want to hear a knock-knock joke for morons? Raymond glanced at the others, who shrugged. Okay. Fine, said Ed. You start. Okay, knock-knock. Ed dropped his chin on his hand and replied, Who's there? Then he batted his eyes. Raymond's mouth opened, and then it closed. Huh? One of Raymond's cronies started to snicker. Raymond looked at him suspiciously. What's so funny? The joke, said the crony. Well, kind of funny. Raymond still looked utterly befuddled. Knowing that he was already pushing his luck, nevertheless, Edward said, Maybe you'll understand it if you try it. Okay, Raymond said gamely. He turned to the kid standing next to him. Want to hear a knock-knock joke for morons? I'm sure he does, Raymond, Ed said brightly. Why don't you start? Okay, knock-knock. Who's there? Came the reply. Once again, Raymond stood there. Ed looked back down at his puzzle and commented, That's what we love about you, Raymond. Your train of thought is powered by the little engine that couldn't. He snickered slightly, but his private amusement was cut short by Raymond's rough hand grabbing him by the back of the hair and snapping his head back. Ed gasped. How'd you like me to bend you into a question mark, funny guy? Oh, I don't think so, Ed grunted. I was really trying to be nice. The shrink and the guidance counselor and the parole officer, they all say I should try and be nicer. Talk to people that I just like to beat the crap out of and be interested. A lot of apostrophes there. The face grew darker. But it's so much easier to pound. Want to hear another riddle? Legit, he added when Raymond growled in response. Really, a famous one, real old. This better be on the level, Raymond told him. It is, I swear. Go on. Well, walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 in the evening. Of course, it's some later Pokemon. Oh, no. Not letting up on the pressure, Raymond nevertheless sounded curious. I dunno, what? Raymond! It was the stern, angry voice of a teacher, heading their way. He wasn't especially tall, but he carried himself with a confidence that seemed to add a foot to his height. He had a newspaper tucked under his arm. He peered up and over his thick glasses at Raymond, who promptly eased up the pressure. "Hi, Mr. Pike," said Raymond. "Problem?" Edward was rubbing the back of his neck. "What's the matter?" he asked derisively. "Run out of comfy sofa space in the teacher's lounge?" "You're not funny, Edward." "Yes, well," and he glanced up at Raymond. "That seems to be the consensus today." "We were just talking," said Raymond suddenly. "Talking doesn't usually require students twisting someone's head in a painful manner." "Right," Edward said gamely. "Leave that for the teachers." Impressively, Mr. Pike looked even less amused than before. Edward quickly put up his hands and said, "Right, I know, not funny." "What's the answer, Eddie?" said Raymond. "Go find your own answers, Raymond," said the teacher. "Now." This just starts him becoming King Tut. This is it. He starts researching, trying to find the solution to that riddle. He's like, "Oh, that's my own fanfic." Sorry, there should be like a parentheses when I'm not actually reading. Again, I've not read this book, and I'm reading it cold, because why would I prepare? Raymond seemed to study him with a manner of sullen glare that Pike sensed probably extended back to Neanderthal times. Then Raymond and his pals moved off. Mr. Pike turned to Edward and said, "I was helping you, Edward. A little less smart-mouthing would be in order." "Yes, sir," Edward said with the most contrite voice. So let me try that again. "Yes, sir." "Yes, sir." Take whichever take you want. "And you shouldn't be sitting around doing puzzle books. This is a library, for crying out loud. Read one of the books." "I already have, sir, all of them. I have an unquenchable thirst for knowledge." The comment sounded so pompous that Pike assumed Edward was screwing around again. But then he saw the intensity with which Edward Nigma had spoken and thought, "Son of a gun, he means it. Or son of a gun means it." After a moment, he tossed the newspaper down in front of Edward. "Here, read today's paper yet? Gotham Globe?" "No, sir." Pike nodded once and then walked away. Edward immediately picked up the paper and started flipping through it. He didn't have to read it, not immediately in any event. His mind would snap pictures of each page to be digested at a convenient time later on. The paper was in sections. He went through the sports section in a heartbeat, moved to the science section. This he took marginally longer with, but moved rapidly past that and picked up the news section and stopped dead at the front page. The headline was somewhat sordid. "Thomas Wayne murdered. Only child survives." Subheadings above that article read, "Prominent doctor and wife slain in robbery. Unidentified gunman leaves only child unharmed." It was a child who caught Edward's eye. The boy seemed roughly Edward's age. There was a huge picture of the crime scene plastered all over the front page, and on the right-hand side of the picture, the only child was staring straight into the camera. Edward's gaze flicked to the caption, which described the photo subject as the grief-stricken Bruce Wayne. "That name sounds familiar." "No," whispered Edward. "No, they got it wrong. He's not stricken with anything. Look at that. Look at that." He saw there in Bruce Wayne's face an intensity that mirrored his own, an anger, a frustration at the hand that fate dealt him. There were no tears in Bruce's face. Instead, there was smoldering intelligence that Edward intuitively sensed was on par with his own. There was something in Bruce's eyes, something in that gaze. There was Bruce in a moment of raw emotion, his parents having just been cruelly taken from him. And there was no self-pity, just cold, hard anger. It was the sort of anger that Edward himself felt virtually every hour of the day, trapped in public school, equivalent, imprisoned in classes where he was bored out of his mind because he was light years ahead of the other kids. But his anger was free-floating, nebulous, indulging itself in games, riddles, and parlor tricks. Bruce Wayne was focused. Bruce Wayne was not intimidated. Bruce Wayne, in Edward's snap opinion, was one hell of a guy. Ed still had the newspaper with him when he was walking home from school. Not that he needed to read it. The contents were safely locked away in his skull, thanks to his photographic memory. But he wanted to clip out the articles and pictures about Bruce Wayne. He found the young man fascinating, as if he had discovered a soulmate of sorts. They were very different, of course. Wayne born into the purple, as it were. Rich boy, all the breaks, best schools, best education, best everything. Edward Nigma was born to a lower middle-class family. No breaks, inadequate schools, least of everything. By all rights, he should have been wildly envious of Wayne's financial and social situation, but the circumstances surrounding Wayne's newly orphaned status placed him, for once, in an unenviable predicament. And equanimity, with which he was. This is I like to pretend like this book will help you fall asleep, and then every once in a while I'll just jar you awake. With which he was reacting to the stress garnered Edward's admiration. Suddenly the newspaper was yanked out of Edward's hand. He spun to find himself facing Raymond and one of Raymond's main henchmen, a pasty-skinned fool named Gil. "What's the answer to the riddle?" demanded Raymond without preamble. "What, can't you figure it out on your..." Raymond grabbed him by the front of the shirt. "I was trying to be nice, and I still don't like you jerking me around. There's no teacher around now. You better tell me." "Why, so you could tell other people and feel smart?" "Yeah." All right. The answer is man. "Man?" said Raymond in confusion. "Yeah. In the morning..." They're going to explain it. "Yeah, in the morning of his life, man crawls on all fours. In the afternoon of his life, man walks on two legs. And in the evening of his life, he walks on two legs with a cane for his third leg. It's the riddle of the Sphinx." "It's stupid," Raymond said. "It's not stupid." "Yes, it is. What's babies and old mans have to do with days?" With tremendous frustration, Emma said, "It's a metaphor. It's..." "I don't care what it's for. It's stupid." That was funny. Raymond said more emphatically and threw Edward down with tremendous force. Edward's skull struck the curb with a sickening crack. He lay there unmoving, but his eyes stared skyward in disjointed confusion. "Get up," shouted Raymond. "Get up, you wimp, you stupid..." "Oh, God, Gil." "Raymond, look." Blood began to trickle out of the side of Edward's mouth. Edward still didn't move, but didn't make the slightest effort to wipe it away. "I think you killed him," whispered Gil. Raymond looked down in confusion. "No, I didn't. Look at it. His eyes are open. He's faking." "He's faking bleeding?" Gil pulled at Raymond's sleeve. "Come on, let's go. I mean it. Let's go." Raymond paused in confusion, and then, with a final defiant bit of anger, he tossed the newspaper down next to Edward. Edward, from a place very far away, heard the pounding of their feet as they ran off, but they seemed almost identical to him, two creatures of little to no consequence. He turned his head slightly to see the newspaper on the sidewalk next to him. The picture of Bruce Wayne stared back at him. Blood oozed, turning the picture into dark red splotch. Why had this happened to him? Why had the world put both himself and Bruce into such untenable positions? Why were brutes in charge of things? How could he improve his personal situation? When would matters improve? Who was he? Who was anybody? And why? Why had he not seen things clearly before? Suddenly, everything made perfect sense. Suddenly, his life mission stretched out before him, his ambitions clear. He was bleeding and might be very sick, or perhaps even about to die, but none of that altered the fact that everything made perfect sense. Questions filled his mind, and he had all the answers. Now, that is an impressive way to end the chapter. Yeah, I really enjoy this. I hope you are enjoying it too. I think these are briefer than the ones later on, of course. We've only been recording for like 10, 15 minutes. And I think that's your fault because you are not interacting with me because I forgot to tell you about this beforehand. And if you are interacting with me and I have not promoted your comments on the screen, whoops, follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitch. I think it's follow on Twitch and subscribe on YouTube. But if you subscribe on Twitch, we get some of that filthy lucre, which is good. But speaking of filthy and lucre, so many better ways of doing this. Go to Non-Productive.com /Batman Forever and donate some money for Peter David's estate and to support his family. And, you know, tell your I know you're not supposed to, you know, meet your heroes, but maybe reach out to them, send them fan letters. Yeah, fan letters. Ignore social media. Just send them hand-addressed fan letters. That's my call to action. Let's see what else we got. Do we have any comments from the last time we did? I don't think so. We've only had one chapter so far. If you leave your comment of your favorite Peter David project, I will read them in an upcoming episode. Or better yet, I will have someone else read them who you prefer to me, which can be pretty much anyone. And that's a good thing. Enjoy your night and the rest of your lives. Goodbye. I'm gonna find the stop button. Hold on. Don't look at me. Don't acknowledge this. Bye. Oh, we're still recording? Okay.